Columbia City Councilman Moe Baddourah continues to push for resignations. Baddourah has been very outspoken about the issues involving the Allen Benedict Court apartments and the families who lived there. He called for the resignation of Columbia Housing Authority Executive Director Gilbert Walker. He's also calling for an investigation by SLED or even the FBI. He joins us in studio now with more on that. Thank you so much for being a part of the conversation.
Thank you for having me.
And let me just get to the bottom line. Why are you the only council member asking for a resignation today?
You know, that's a good question. You can ask all the other council members. Everybody knows that I am outspoken. I speak what I think and what I think is right. It is our duty as council members to represent the people that needs us, the minority of the votes. And I feel like, this is the time that I can come out up front and ask for the resignation for the director, because with his negligence, we have 411 people homeless. We have 2 dead bodies. We have a lot of apartments that housed 411 people plus that they were determined unsafe to live in by the fire chief and the fire policeman. And it's my duty to represent the public in general and to come forward and hold somebody liable and accountable for all the mistakes that they've done in life.
There may be some viewers right now who are watching thinking that you represent that district, but that's not your area.
It's not my area really, but it's not about district boundaries. It's not about politics. It's about doing the right thing. And I really believe this is the right thing to rebuild the trust of all the residents of Columbia Housing Authority, current ones and the future ones. This is the time to rebuild the trust, and when we grant and receive the $30 million grant from HUD, is that we have the right people to manage that grant and manage those facilities moving forward, and not to allow this to happen again.
I know a lot of people are watching and listening to you speak in the present tense about this grant, but it's not been guaranteed to Columbia yet.
It has not been guaranteed, yes, and that's what worries me even more. Just because if we continue doing what we're doing with the current administration, there's something wrong. I mean, they haven't proved to me that they can do the job. And I don't think they can do that job in the future.
How would getting rid of the current administration mean more housing for people in Columbia who need it desperately? Because we know affordable housing is not just a problem in Columbia, it's a problem nationwide.
Correct. And if you, we've had this discussion on council before. Council adopted a resolution to offer tax incentives for low-income houses. I went beyond that. I said, instead of bringing in new housing or tax incentives for that, let's offer the tax incentives for the current inventory that we have in hand, that we can accommodate people with low-income housing right now, instead of waiting 2 years or 4 years or 5 years to be built. And I think that would be something that council needs to address. Listen, I asked for a special council meeting a couple of weeks ago, and I haven't had that chance. But if we would have granted me that chance and that special call meeting, we would have put all that on the table. We would have discussed investigation by the FBI. We would have discussed investigation by SLED. We would have talked about other options. But the #1 goal is holding someone accountable. And I think the director of the Columbia Housing Authority right now is responsible for all misplacing all these people that are trying and scrambling and trying to find a place to live and lay their head down.
What are you prepared to do for these 411 that are still seeking housing tonight?
We're going to fight for them. We're going to try to do everything we can on the administration side to regain their trust in the Columbia Housing Authority and on their public officials that they elected us. But we're going to do everything we can between churches and people and businesses who donated gift cards, who donated food and everything else for them. We're going to try to make this miserable time for them as comfortable as can, because it's the thing that we like to do. And this is Columbia. I mean, everybody puts in their efforts together and help each other, because we are, after all, one village, when you think about it.
The executive director works at the pleasure of the commissioners, but City Council appoints those commissioners.
Correct.
Has there been any discussion among council members on whether or not those current commissioners, those Columbia Housing Authority commissioners, will be replaced? We know they have a special called meeting tomorrow.
The special called council meeting that I requested would have discussed all that. I think there was a few commissioners that terms have expired, and I think there might be a chance to bring in a new blood new commissioners, new ideas, fresh ideas into the administration, and hopefully we'll do the right thing. And I do believe in my colleagues. I'd support them 100%, and hopefully they'll come around. And I don't want to say see it my way, but see it the way of these residents who were misplaced 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, our focus here at WLTX, and we believe that it should be everybody's focus, is that there are 2 families who are now mourning the loss of their loved ones.
Correct.
It's deadly housing. They were killed in their homes by carbon monoxide poisoning. What steps are we taking, you, I say we meaning lawmakers, in making sure that this doesn't happen again? Is there any conversation about making things like carbon monoxide detectors required in housing? I mean, I know there's a whole list of things that you have to have in order to take HUD funds,
right.
But what are you all doing on a local level to make sure that this does not happen again, outside of your request to have the executive director's resignation?
So the Columbia Fire Department, every year just about, we go around and give away fire detector or fire alarms to all the residents who needs it. We've gone around, me personally, and changed batteries on some of the senior citizens who have fire alarms who are not working. So we check those out just about once, maybe twice a year. Maybe we need to now and go back and carbon monoxide detection and see if we can give those away. Now, we passed a resolution or an ordinance not too long ago about landlord and the requirements for a landlord, how the steps that they have to take to be a landlord and a good landlord, and some of those things maybe we'll have to go and refine the ordinance and say carbon monoxide detections has to be in place in all the apartments and all the rental properties, just because it's a odorless threat that nobody can see or feel or smell. And I think that's something that we're definitely going to learn from those, the death of two people. But at the same time, all that could have been avoided if somebody was doing a good job, watching what they're doing, and not being neglected.
One of the greatest threats to affordable housing in the city, and again, not just in the city of Columbia, but metropolitan areas across the country, is that we are continuing to build these high-rises, especially in cities like Columbia that are college towns. Mm-hmm. So are you prepared to start to vote against these high-rises that are just for student housing in an effort to make sure that housing becomes more affordable for people who need that housing?
You know, the idea of housing being affordable, it all comes from, you know, the tax base and everything else that we do in the city. I've voted for tax incentives for student housing or other things before. There is a time and place for everything in our city. And I think if the time comes from now on, there's something that we can look at for sure. Tax incentive does not solve the problem. You know, everything else that comes with our community that's going to solve the problem. Once again, offering those incentives to the current inventory or apartment complexes, that will cure the immediate need for low-income housing, and hopefully we'll find permanent housing for all 411 people that are looking for houses to live. You
said district lines don't matter to you. What keeps you up at night when you think about the city of Columbia?
My 2 boys who are sitting right here in the studio, you and I and everybody else in this community who love Columbia. We love our neighbors. There's nothing I do every day that pleases me unless if I get the satisfaction that I help somebody at the end of the day. And I feel like this is my calling to help the 411 people who has been living in hell in the past 2 weeks, who were grabbed out of their own bedrooms in the middle of the night because it was unsafe condition. So that's what keeping me fighting and keep going every day and trying to help those people.
Moe Baddourah, we appreciate it.
Thank you
so much.